All right. So the topic for this week, I was just kind of see what lights up as far as what to talk about. So I had a call from someone a couple days ago, and it's a person. So they don't have family members, and they're getting older, and they're thinking like, what how do I take care of myself as I get older? And then we started talking about assisted living, and so we I was talking, and I'm thinking that I don't know if you've ever thought like this person knows what I know, like I'm picturing assisted living. And then they started telling me a few things that they were really worried about, like if I move into one of those communities, they're going to take all my money. You have to pay them like $400,000 to move in. And they started to get really anxious. I was like, oh, I'm so happy you told me that, because that's not really accurate. That's that if you move into a certain type of community, yes, but that's a very small percentage of the communities. And then they said, well, I heard that I have to like spend all my money, or they take all my money, and then I just get like $50 a month to spend. And how am I going to pay for stuff? And so I saw how really affected this person was by these beliefs that she had, or old stories. And so I was really happy to, first of all, let her know that that's not necessarily true. And also it reminded me that there are maybe things that you all think about, that that you worry about, that we can talk about, and you know bring you some peace of mind. Because when I saw, like, if I just explained a few things, how peaceful she got, and then it was like, oh wow, you just go on and enjoy your life now. Don't be so afraid of getting older. So I'll start with what she was talking about. There are these myths that about giving all your money over. So I think that comes from two different things. One, there's when you want some help, or maybe want to be around community, uh, maybe like me, like I'm tired of maintaining a home, I'm ready to move into assisted living. Now it's called assisted living. I would move in independently, like I wouldn't need more care, but I would get more care as I got older. They just bring more care in. So that's assisted living, and you can do that either month to month. Just pay for 30 days, just I was going to say like an apartment, except most of the time you don't have to sign a year's lease. It's just month to month. You pay a little bit to move in, maybe a couple $1,000s, and then you pay month to month. And when you're ready to leave, you just give 30 days notice and you're done. No commitment. But there are something called a continuing care community. And that's where it's a large chunk of money that you pay them up front. Could be $200,000, $400,000, depending on the place. And they promise to never kick you out, even if you run out of money. And then there's also a monthly fee in addition to that. So I think that was part of it. And the second part that it may have been, pushed together somehow, is you'll hear about Medi-Cal planning, or in California it would be Medicaid planning. So there's Medicare is the health insurance. If you're over 65, most people have Medicare. Well, Medi-Cal or Medicaid is insurance for people that have low income. So maybe they make low income and low assets. So maybe they have, if a single person, $2,000 or less in the bank, and maybe they make $1,000 a month, like Social Security or some kind of income. So it's very low income, but you can get health insurance, and you have to qualify for that. And so sometimes you'll hear ads on television, and it'll say, so usually it's some law firm, and they'll help you with Medicaid planning. So you'll have a place to live, or you'll have, however they word it, but and then there's along with that, if you do have assets, say you have $100,000 in investments, and at some point you go like, oh, I need to move out of my home because I need more help. Well, some people say, well, if you spend that money down, you may have heard that term before, spend down. That means take your $100,000 to the $2,000 level, the Medi-Cal level. And those numbers change each year, so don't hold me to that 2,000, but just low. And we can find out specifically what that is per year. But so spend down the money, and then if you need help, you can go to a nursing home. Well, that's accurate. And if someone doesn't have money, doesn't have the assets, and they have low income, they can qualify for Medi-Cal. And what the state pays is a nursing home, or sometimes you can get what's called in California, assisted living waiver program. So sometimes you don't really need a nursing home, but you don't have any money for assisted living, you could qualify for the assisted living waiver program and get into a community that accepts that. Now, they're not the nicest places, but they are a place, and someone would have a home. So those kind of configurations with money sometimes get confabulated, and I think it adds into the person. Like if a person is starting to be afraid, like, I'm getting older, who's going to help me? And then they start looking for a little bit of information here and there, and then they put it together, and it turns into like some scary thing. So I just wanted to bring those two things up specifically that I heard, and then also we could open it up to you guys as far as what do you worry about, or what myths have you heard? One thing, when I first started, 20 some years ago, when I first started working with, when I got my master's in social work, I went into the older adults and family track. There were two tracks, one for kids and family, one for older adults. And I knew I couldn't work with kids because I just want to take them all home. And with older adults, I think I could stay more neutral because at least you've had a lifetime of your choices, and I could be more neutral with you. And I just always got along with older people and my grandparents really well. So, but when I first started, I really pictured I pictured the nursing home. That's who I'm going to work with. I'm going to work with like a 90-pound woman laying in a nursing home with a white sheet, no blanket, in a cold, noisy, etc. nursing home. Like, that was my vision. So I was happily surprised that it's really an old model of when people couldn't stay at home, that they'd move into a nursing home. And it seems like that, and even if it was assisted living, it wasn't very nice at the time, right? So now we have really fantastic assisted livings, gorgeous. They're like a cruise ship, 5-star rating. So when people think of like, well, I don't really want to be home anymore, it's really hard to maintain my house, and I'd really like some more help. I'd like life to be easier. I would like to, not have to shop and cook and clean all that by myself anymore. There are really wonderful options as far as really nice assisted livings that, month to month, it does help to have some, a budget for that as far as saving your money. Certainly not free, but it is available. And then there are communities with the continuing care community where some people say, well, some people think this idea of I'm going to be taken care of forever is appealing. But what I recently learned, and it makes sense, I learned firsthand. I was helping someone find an assisted living, and one of the places that we were looking at was a continuing care community. And this place has been a continuing care community, and they're switching over more and more to month to month because they're finding that's what people really want now. But they still made the person fill out all the financial documentation that they have in place for the continuing care community. They ask about all your assets, all your, any potential income, any long-term care insurance, all of that. And what I realized is that, and this person that I was helping, at first they said, I don't know that she's going to qualify. I was like, what? She just sold her house. She's got long-term care insurance. Like, why wouldn't she qualify? But I realized that they run the numbers so that they say they're going to keep you there forever because you have enough money. They don't even let you in if you don't really have enough money for how long you would typically live. And it was not, I think it was maybe $1,000 a month less per month if she gave them $400,000 and then lived and she's paying monthly versus just paying month to month. It was paying like $1,000 more than the person was going to give that chunk of money. So financially, that didn't make any sense. So just some ideas as far as there are beautiful assisted livings. Nancy Carter lives in one of the fanciest ones I know of. And not necessarily just fancy, it's beautiful because it's a fairly new building. I used to work there when they first opened up. I ran their memory care community for about 1.5 years. So but the care, that's really the piece. Like the place could be the most beautiful thing, but if the care, really the caregivers, the kindness, the generosity of the people who work there make the difference. So you can get that in a lot of places. So that's one of the things. If you're going to move to assisted living, find out, go there if you can, and find what the people are like, how they treat the residents and the other staff. So that's the one myth that I wanted to start with, and then I'll open the floor with, you might have questions, comments, anything you all want to talk about. If you want to share, just raise your hand or. Okay.
Well, thank you, first of all, Dr. Cheryl, for your courage and your commitment and your sweetness. And I think that sweetness is such a solic quality that's so important. I used to be in the mental health field as a marriage family therapist and dealt with people who have so-called, and they're all experiences, mental health diagnoses. And I think we all do, because I have anxiety and some depression. And one thing that's really important, it's not just the money you have, but it's also the medications that you have. Because I was turned down for long-term care insurance because I was on an antidepressant, which was mainly for insomnia. It wasn't just for depression. So that's a real concern with some of these facilities. And for my mental health clients, a lot of them on psychiatric meds were not accepted, even into Medi-Cal facilities. So they'd end up in the bowels of Los Angeles in these pretty wretched facilities because of their psych meds. But that's something I wanted you to address too. But also, if you could mention, what you really think about long-term care insurance. Some have gone out of business. Some people never ever get their full benefits. They die and their relatives are still stuck with a big bill. So those are some of my issues, or what I should say, opportunities. So God bless. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So first, I'll say, significant mental health hasn't been my specialty outside of dementia and Alzheimer's and different types of dementia. Although I did for a while work at a geriatric psychiatric inpatient unit at a hospital. So I saw the older people coming in and out. Sometimes when people have dementia, sometimes, but not, I was gonna say, I think it's more infrequent. I think that's the word I'd put on it, infrequent, is that they have some kind of behavioral issues that come up with their dementia that they need to get medication. And sometimes that means bringing them into a secure unit where the psychiatrist can observe them and get some medication on board. with Alzheimer's, usually that's for a short period in my experience. Maybe that's meaning they're in there maybe for a week or 10 days to get medication, but that the period of where they need that is maybe like a year. So they're going along fine, their dementia is declining. And then there's some behavioral things, get some medication on board. And then the dementia guy goes further into the dementia. So maybe they don't have the paranoia anymore, or they don't have the behavioral things anymore, and so that they can kind of get off the medications. So it's kind of a shorter period of time. Well, there are dementias like frontal temporal, especially if the person is young and strong. Sometimes there's that the changes in the brain can sometimes cause aggression. So then you've got to be really careful where that person lives. As far as sometimes they can be a danger even to their people at home, or into a regular senior living where everybody's kind of frailer, and getting a strong person with behavioral issues in there can be a challenge. So there are usually secured communities that those type of people would end up, at least for a while, until their behavior is helped. What I'd see at the geropsych inpatient is people would come in. A lot of times they maybe homeless people, or people that didn't really pay attention to their medications, or maybe didn't have money for medications. So they'd have challenges out in the world, and then they'd end up coming in, stay a week, get the medications on board, and then they go back in that community. That is a slice of our humanity. It's not something that, it's not a community that I've spent a lot of time with, except for what I'm telling you. But most people won't have that experience. Now, with medications, and like if you want to move into an assisted living, they will, to move in, you give them a list of your medications. Actually, is that true? Thinking if you want them to do your medication management, so you move into an assisted living, you say, I need some, you could move in completely independent and not need any help. You just want the apartment, you room and board, you get the meals and activities and things. You wouldn't have to give them, but you don't have to give them your medication list, because they're not doing anything with your medication. Now, if you move in, you say, I need some help with my medications, you've got to give them your medication list. And I suppose that there might be some medications that they might go, well, this is for, I don't know, some significant mental health issue, and then they might not let you in. But what's really going to be, even more than your medication list, is anytime you move into an assisted living, in California at least, and this may be different nationwide, but everybody needs to fill out a physician's report. So it's a couple-page document, and the physician is saying, does this person have this? Does this person do this? Can this person walk? Can this person eat by themselves? And that probably, I don't remember right now an exact question on there, but it may say something about behavior, or is there, would they fit into a community, some specifics like that. So it's more behavior related. Now, with long-term care insurance, it's always been this like, it's like any insurance where it's a risk. It's a risk. It's long-term care insurance is if you need help dressing, bathing, walking, like activities of daily living, that at some point when you can't do, like the policies are a little different. Say you need help with 2 or 3 of them at least, then you can say, okay, long-term care activity or long-term insurance company, I need some help with these 2 things. They send out an assessment nurse, and they say yes or no, that you qualify for the beginnings of service. That insurance can pay for help at home, And it also can help pay for assisted living, depending on how the policy is written. The policy also can have a daily limit, like you're limited to $300 a day. It can also have a maximum limit. You're limited to $50,000, you know. So there's some limits, and it varies. One friend of mine years ago in the senior industry said, I got long-term care insurance because I know my husband is not a caregiver type. So I know when I need help, I need to hire someone. So she got long-term care insurance. And you're right, some long-term care insurance companies have gone out of business. I think the calculations must have changed over time as far as how long people live, what kind of care they need, things like that. So it's been adjusting over time. So it's important, if you do get it, to get a very reputable company. And there must be a magical age, but as we age, it gets very expensive. And so what most people end up doing is they just self-insure. Like they put away that money to go, okay, well, if I need help, I'm just going to put that money in savings. So if I do need it, I'm drawing interest on my investment or my savings, and then I'll be able to pay for it. What else? I have myself looked into long-term care insurance over the years, and it's never made sense yet. The closest thing that I have found was a product that came out about a year ago that was a combination long-term care and life insurance. So if I needed it in my lifetime, so I'm paying in the insurance every month, if I needed it for long-term care insurance, it would kick in, and then it would pay for certain things delineated on the policy. And if I never needed it, if I died, then my beneficiaries would get whatever the payment would be, whatever the policy would be worth at that point, it would be turned into life insurance. And so that made so much more sense than just paying thousands of dollars in for a long time. And then, if I never needed it, which I would hope I would never need it, right? Then it would turn into life insurance, and it would be a benefit to somebody. That was the closest thing I got to I might do this, but I'm not doing it. And so everybody needs to look at their own situation too, right? So do you have friends that would help? Do you have family that would help? Where would you live? Do you have money in savings? Because most people need some level of care between the time, I need help and, I'm not alive anymore. So
Aging.
So some people, everybody will need help unless they just, have a heart attack and they're out of here really fast. So, we all have to plan on that. My plan right now, I have a wife. So let's see, whoever needs care first, hopefully won't need at the same time. And then I've got a daughter who I'm training. And and she's in training, but also she'll ask us every so often, which assisted living do you want me to put you in? So right, so and we're working towards putting money aside, investing for our retirement. Because when people call me and they say, hey Cheryl, my mom or dad, something happened to mom or dad, they need some help either in the home or in assisted living. And one of the first questions to decide which route to go down is, how much money do they have? Because then you know what your choices are. So it's an incentive, save your money, and then just have a plan B. As this person that I was talking about earlier, they were nervous about the future and nervous, where's my money going to go? And are they going to take it all? I bet, part of it is when she knew oh, I know what you're doing. I can call you. So to have some special people in your life, younger than you, that can help. My grandma used to call me, hey, you remember these days? She's like, Cheryl, I know I've won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. I just got to send this in. I just got to send this $100 in. She called me like, Grandma, I don't think so. I know you really want that, but I don't think so. So like to have someone to call about your publisher's clearinghouse and talk you off the ledge. Does that answer your questions?
Oh, I have several, but light to all
Yeah.
of us as we go through
Okay.
this graceful
Yeah.
process. So thank you for your loveliness. God bless.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for your questions. We may have more time for more questions from UK if no one else has any. But anybody else?
I want to report that my brother is in hospice.
Oh,
He's 1 year
well,
older
bless
than
you
me.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh,
he is in assisted living. And when he chose to do that, then they wanted to up their level of care. This is the assisted living place. Wanted to up his level of care, even though as far as I thought it worked, was if he goes on hospice and they come in and bring a hospital bed and morphine and 2 people. And so actually the assisted living place would have less to do with him, not more. But that's not the way they see it.
mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I'm not so involved. He lives in Colorado and I live in Texas. So I am not the responsible party. I love him and we've said goodbye. So that's where it is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd just report that.
I appreciate hearing from you, Alice. I don't necessarily want to, like, it didn't seem like you had a question, and I'm appreciating just the quality of your and the loving in your voice. But I'll say, just as kind of a teaching moment from what you shared. So when someone goes on hospice, what that means is there's lots of hospice agencies, and so hospice can be offered in someone's home. If you live in assisted living, it can be there. Sometimes they have freestanding hospices, or like hospice in a small part of a hospital. So there's more frequently out here in Southern California, I see hospice at home or assisted living. So the agency provides a nurse, which does nursing visits like 2-3 times a week if someone's just fine. And then there's a nurse available 24/7. So if you're at home and someone has a concern, or if someone's in assisted living, someone has a concern, they can call the nurse. They can talk them through it on the phone. And if they still have a concern, they can send a nurse out 24/7. So the goal is that someone doesn't have to go back to the hospital. They don't call 911 unless something like, oh, you're on hospice because you've got cancer, but all of a sudden you fell and broke your leg. Okay, let's call 911 and go get your leg your leg fixed, but bring you back and keep you comfortable. So the idea is someone can just be peaceful at home. So they provide a nurse, a social worker to help, talk about things and grief and arrangements, a home health aide that usually comes out twice a week. They can help bathing, and a chaplain if someone wants that. And then volunteers are available too if someone wants that. But these visits are short. Like if the nurse comes out, they're there for like 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Home health aide usually is out maybe for an hour. So they're short. So sometimes people think, oh, my loved one's going to go on hospice, then they don't need any care anymore. Like I had these caregivers, or I was doing all this work. Hospice is going to do all that. That's not what happens, but they do supplement it. So whatever level of care, say your brother had in the assisted living, hospice would come, hospice and the assisted living would be like, if the assisted living was nervous about something, or they mean nervous meaning they were not sure, or maybe he was coughing and they didn't know about that, they could call the hospice nurse instead of calling 911. Sometimes they could charge more at an assisted living, and what they call it is like an outside vendor fee, because now instead of just handling things in-house with the assisted living and having their nursing team and caregivers handle it, they've got to talk to the hospice agency. And so, you know, it's maybe a little bit more care in that way. They do get more support from the nurses coming out, but it does take a little bit of time to manage that care. So that, you know, maybe that's what they're talking about, if he's doing the same as he was before hospice.
Well,
I think
he had been, I'm sorry, had been on dialysis 3 times a week, and it's been stopped.
Mhm. Okay.
So his life expectancy is 2 weeks to a month.
Okay. Well, lots of light to your brother. And I'm so glad that hospice is involved. That'll be a beautiful support for him. Yes, Nancy.
Oh, Cheryl, what is her brother's name? So we could put it in the
James?
light.
Oh, sure. James Woods.
James Woods.
Thank you.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi. Two things. I wanted to share my experience with hospice with my uncle. It was very positive. He was living in assisted living at the time. It was a great place. And what they allowed was I hired an independent gentleman and his son that came in, and they did 24-hour, morning and night care. And this was in addition to what he received from the assisted living. And what was wonderful is when hospice was brought in, the nurse, or the way that they arrangement is, they came depending on the person's needs. So when he went into that stage of his life, she first would come in like every day and just check on him, how are you doing? When it came to the time, and I'm talking like the day of his imminent death, because of symptoms his body was having shutting down, she came and stayed 24 hours until he actually passed. And so I'm very grateful, number one, that the assisted living center allowed me to bring in an outside gentleman and his son to provide that care that, they didn't have time to provide. So I'm very grateful for that. And I want to comment on the assisted living. And this is for myself because, Cheryl, I spoke with you. I'd really considered moving into assisted living. Number one, because I'm on my own, the rest of my family has already passed. And I, health-wise it was a bit difficult for me. So I thought being in a place with that care would be, wonderful. And so I did check it out. And then I calculated the money. And even though I have like a substantial, according to some standards of money in the bank, when I did the calculations, if I stayed healthy, I really only had enough money for 3 years. And I thought, well, that's not probably such a good decision then, because I could outlive what I had. So, it was a tough decision, because honestly, I think if I had unlimited funds, I would definitely move in, because food is taken care of. And I looked at the place that Nancy is in. I mean, my gosh, they have a swimming pool, a gym, it would relieve me from having to do all of that. So it's a tough one, being in that betwixt and between. So I just want to share that.
Thanks, Peggy. Alice?
Not to dominate the conversation, but so we have checked out a life plan facility, and they, you put down a big down payment and they will take care of you the rest of your life and give you whatever care you may need. And it's beautiful, and they've got everything. And we just haven't done it yet. So, oh yeah, here's what I wanted to say. So they have several different plans for financing, and one of them is when you die, when both of you die, after, then 90% can go back to your estate or to whomever you designate. And then they have another plan so that 50% of your lump sum can go back. And most people come in on what they call the standard plan, and that's putting down a large amount, but it is the least amount. And you don't, let's see, and it's prorated up to 5 months. 3 years and 2 months or whatever. They have it worked out so that it's prorated. If you die within that period of time, you'll get some of it back. But if after that point, you won't get anything back. And yeah, too bad we just don't know when the time comes.
Right.
That's part of the
Right.
fun of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody, it's different for everybody. Like, where does someone want to live? What kind of community is available around where they want to live? And then financially, what can they afford? What makes sense? What gives them peace of mind? Some people are like, I want to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to know that they have that they, when they say they'll take care of you forever, that means you can move in independent living and then move to assisted or bring assisted into your care. And then usually they'll have some type of nursing home there, or even if you need memory care, they'll help you there. So you'll be in an assisted living forever there. They're not going to kick you out. If you won't run out of money, but if you did run out of money, they wouldn't kick you out. So it's just running the numbers and then thinking about what kind of diseases do I have? How long did my parents live? So many things to think about. But in addition to money, to me, it comes down to what kind of quality of life do I want? And then always balancing that between right now and then long term. Anything, sometimes we go on a vacation, like, well, that costs a lot of money. But then, also go like, well, that's, if we died tomorrow, we'd feel complete because we got our daughter to Europe once. That was like the trip we were looking forward to. Now, let me check that off our list. Now we can. So it's always a balance between spending for a quality of life that you want, but also putting money aside for tomorrow, right? But if we did know that date, that we wouldn't be here anymore, and then what we would need in care for the future, that would certainly help our planning. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Cheryl, and everybody else. Hello. Well, I'm celebrating my 78th birthday, and I celebrated by
Happy
sleeping
birthday.
at 11:15, and I'm just now finishing my breakfast because I came back from having the talk with my daughter.
Ah, yes.
So at least not the first of the talks, and took my husband was with me, and took most of our documents, our trust, our durable county, the whole, the power of attorney, the power, all of that stuff with her, and talked it over. And it's a kind of I had been dreading this talk, but it really was quite nice. And what it came up to, and this is kind of gets into your last comments. And so I'm thinking that maybe what I really need to be doing is visiting assisted livings and talking to people. And because I have no idea what I want. I know that I don't think I want to live with my daughter, because I saw what happened with I have a sister-in-law who's 99 and is living in her home. And it's her daughter she lives in the same town, but not close. And I think it's really not a good situation for her. And I also have a 96-year-old aunt who lives in the top of the top in San Diego. And well, I know that I can't afford that. I'm not sure I would like it if I did. So here I am in Baja. I'm thinking about, so what do I want? So my plan is to start working on a lot of the questions that came up with my daughter and visiting. So I think when I come up for conference, I would really like to visit some of the people that are in assisted living anyone that is in the Los Angeles area that's on this call. So if I could, I would really like to visit. So that's kind of my plan, but I'm wondering how do I envision? I mean, I believe that if I envision a lot of what I want, that makes the choices greater when the time comes. And so I guess that was one of the good things about talking with my daughter, was that she talked about her yoga teacher that is in her, I guess, middle to late 80s, and has a group of people that she gets along with, and they hike together and they travel together and they live there. So, I guess maybe I could adapt to living in that area, which I'm not too crazy about. But I guess it's adaptable. The whole idea is acceptance and cooperation. That I learned from JR. So I guess my question is, I'd like some ideas about how to go into this adventure of looking into what I want and what that doesn't mean I'm going to get it, but at least I'd have some idea about my preferences. And that's my question.
Okay.
And maybe
So, congratulations.
all have ideas.
Yes. All right. We can open it up. And for those of you who don't know, Carol was talking to her. So she's living in Mexico. Her daughter's in San Diego.
No, Idaho.
Northern. Idaho. Okay. There we go. Idaho. And then you're going to talk to her about, just aging and where you're going to be and how you're going to be, and what you want this next adventure part of your life to look like. I think you were saying she might not be thrilled if you stayed in Mexico. She was worried about that.
I don't think she's worried about. Oh, am I still? My mic is okay. I don't think she's worried about that. I just think that my daughter is really. She also watched my mother, who I've gone through a lot of this process with my mother, who was one of the first ministers in MSIA, when she had an accident and could not speak for herself. And so I visited assisted livings. And the one that finally my brother was willing to use, that he had the power of attorney that he was willing to pay for with her money, was good, until all of a sudden it wasn't good. And so even assisted livings can go from quite good to not good at all. And so we had to make some major adjustments in a really short time. And so I saw that happen. I've watched my aunt age and my sister-in-law age, and a number of other people, because I've had a lot of experience with older people. I like to be around older people, kids and older people. So I'm really starting to think, I know sort of what I would not like. I would not like to be a burden on my daughter, because she has 3 young children and she lives in a very cold place. Although I have to say they have lilacs blooming right now, and the tulips were blooming, which are beautiful, and we don't have in northern Baja, near San Diego. So it has some advantages. So really, maybe I need to shift my my thinking in terms of not wanting to live. I don't want to live with her, but I could live near her maybe. So it's the question of, how have other people negotiated figuring out what they want to do? You may not get it, but at least having an idea about what it is you really want.
Well, let's open up to your universe. Nancy has her hand up.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Carol. So
Hi,
I'll
Nancy.
take you up on your what you said, which is you'd like to visit other facilities on your way or coming or going from conference. Cheryl has my phone number if she will give it to you, and you can just let me know when you're going to be here, and we'll work out.
I was hinting, actually, that was one of my, I do want to visit you. So definitely.
Yeah. So that's one thing I had to say. I'm here because I have, like Cheryl suggested, I have some younger, wonderful friends who are very attentive, and Cheryl is among them, as is Karen. So that helps a lot. I'm sorry for my 90-year-old scratchy throat. So if you want to be in touch with me, you're welcome to do that.
I'll do that. I'm going to be seeing you then.
I could go on and talk about expectations, Cheryl. You've heard my story. When Cheryl first started talking about assisted living, the image in my mind was of a dusty room or somebody's extra bedroom with curtains and an extra chair in the corner, and somebody coming in and cooking up a meal here and there. And it was a dismal picture. And when she walked me into where I currently am, the name of which is Vivante, I was totally surprised, because my apartment, though small, is perfect. And one reason it's perfect is they have high ceilings here, so it makes it feel much more expansive. And the place is kind of run like a mom and pop place, so it isn't institutional, which is another factor that I like a lot, but it's quite well run. So they have the medication distribution managed and so forth. They hook us up with doctors in the area. I could say we're in Costa Mesa, so it's charming area right on the coast that seems to have all the advantages that we could have anywhere. I came from Culver City in Los Angeles, and I haven't missed anything being away from them. So thank you for listening.
I'm happy to jump in unless someone else has something else. think there's it's saying something that you're coming to this point that you're considering it, and I would say you're ahead of most. Most people stay in denial and they wait till something happens, maybe a fall, maybe a fall they can't, or some kind of a illness that ends them up in the hospital, and then they can't go home, or they can't go home without help. And so then they have a choice. Do I get help at home? Do I go to assisted living? So the advantage of your situation now is that you're mobile, you're healthy, you can go looking around. And I guess the trick is that you don't have that extra motivator to like go, I need something now. That sometimes is often what pushes someone to the next level, to doing something different. But how your mind is thinking ahead, like, look, I've seen this before, seen it with my mom, my grandma. I know what's ahead, and I want to have this great life. And I understand your husband is older than you, and like, how can you plan ahead? And especially because of the place you live now, it's cool. You'd have to see, how do you live, how do you age in place, on the beach in Mexico. So, and like, how long can you live there before you need to leave? And so I think part of it is will help. In a couple months, you'll be in LA and you can see some nice places. I'm happy to refer you to some places that you could see. And then you kind of get a sense of like, what feels good? What kind of community feels good? Do you like a larger community, smaller community? Do you want it fancy? Do you want it near the beach? Do you want, what activities do you want? And then you visit that community. Oh, these people, there's a certain vibe in certain communities, right? The people seem young, or the same people seem depressed, or they only have certain hours during the day that I can get to the restaurant. Well, I don't like that. I want a restaurant that's open all day. So then you get down to these things. It's similar to like, we're going college shopping. We're looking at colleges for our daughter. And so, we start looking, and then we're like, oh, I didn't even realize that one of the things I like is I really like multiple options of coffee shops nearby. Oh, so then we add that to the list. Oh, I want something that's low crime. I want something that I can walk. I want something in nature. I want something within 2 hours of a big city like Boston or New York. So the more you start looking, and you'll find certain things that you like, and then the more you look, the more you'll dial into, if because you have time right now, you'll have that luxury of, oh, I didn't even realize that this thing was important to me, but I realize that now. And to remember that it doesn't have to be your last move. It could be like, when someone moves into assisted living, you can even go, most assisted livings will keep you there even through hospice. So the goal would be, I never have to move again. But you can move if you want. You can go like, hey, I think I'm going to go live in Costa Mesa for a year. Oh, now I think I'm going to go live in Iowa, or whatever, Idaho for a year. So there's options. As we get older, depending on if someone in your family has health issues, you might need to be closer to a hospital. Like, I need to be within X amount of time with a hospital. So you kind of have your list of things, near hospital, near blah, blah, and then you start putting those together, and then that option will, I think, come clearer.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we can keep talking about this, because it's a great subject that many people are dealing with. So I appreciate you bringing it up. Okay, loves, thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you again in the future. Love your energy. Always just a really nice, loving time of community. So thank you. All right. Hope to
Thanks,
see you next
Cheryl.
week.
Bye.
Okay. Take care.
Everybody.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you,
Yay.
everybody.
Thank you.